approximately 70% of Earth's surface is covered by oceans, they have nurtured countless life forms through the water cycle and plate tectonics. However, it is said that humanity has explored at most only about 20% of Earth's oceans, which are extremely important for life. This tendency becomes even more pronounced in the deep sea, where exploration is difficult. Therefore, many people may wonder if unknown giant creatures exist in the deep sea. It's very romantic to think that there might be unseen giant creatures at the bottom of this deep ocean. But do such undiscovered giant creatures really exist in the deep sea? And if such giant creatures were discovered, what would happen? Today, I'd like to introduce what would happen if giant creatures existed in the deep sea. The largest animal on Earth today is the blue whale, which lives in the ocean. The largest individual ever discovered was 30 meters long and weighed up to 200 tons, surpassing even the largest dinosaurs, and is sometimes called the largest animal in Earth's history. In fact, it's believed that blue whales acquired such massive bodies because at the end of the Ice Age, large amounts of nutrients flowed into the ocean, causing a rapid increase in krill and other prey. It can be said that animals reaching this size is rare in Earth's history. On the other hand, giant creatures that once inhabited Earth's oceans, while smaller than whales in size, were far more terrifying. For example, megalodon, a giant shark. There's also an arthropod called the sea scorpion, Gigolopterus, which reached 2.5 meters in length and is considered the largest arthropod in Earth's history, and we mustn't forget the famous Mosasaurus as a giant creature. Mosasaurs inhabited the oceans of the Cretaceous period, from 45 million to 66 million years ago. Just as modern whales and dolphins are mammals adapted to ocean life, mosasaurs were a type of reptile adapted to the sea. While there are various theories about their body length, estimates suggest they could reach 17 meters, similar to Megalodon. Despite their massive size, they had shark-like tail fins and streamlined bodies that allowed them to swim quickly. With a jaw-like head and another row of teeth inside their mouth, they would tear apart and consume their prey. These mosasaurs apparently reigned at the top of the food chain in the Cretaceous oceans. Furthermore, mosasaurs are thought to have been ferocious in nature, and evidence has been found that they preyed on large fish up to 1 meter in length and even other mosasaurs. If mosasaurs still survived today, the ocean's ecosystem might be completely different. However, unfortunately for Viance fans, but fortunately for humanity, such giant creatures are believed to be already extinct. As introduced at the beginning, Earth's oceans are vast, and there are many areas that humans have not explored, especially in the deep sea. If undiscovered giant creatures were found in the deep sea, what would happen? Some may think that undiscovered giant creatures are just a pipe dream. However, many biologists believe that, depending on the definition of giant creatures, undiscovered organisms may still exist in the deep sea. In fact, even in modern times, many new organisms have been discovered. In the 20th century, famous discoveries include the coelacanth, discovered in 1938, reaching 2 meters in length, and the megamouth shark, discovered in 1970, reaching 5 meters in length. Both are known to inhabit depths of several hundred meters or more in the deep sea, making them difficult for biologists to discover, though local fishermen may have known of them. Even in the 21st century, there are examples of deep-sea organisms being discovered. For example, in 2013, analysis of whale bones that had been consumed as food in Kiribati in the Pacific revealed a new species of beaked whale. Regarding beaked whales, which sometimes venture into shallow waters, much about them and their relatives remains poorly understood, which is not surprising. Also, in 2020, a siphonophore 46 meters long was discovered off the coast of Australia at a depth of 600 meters. This is better described as a colony of individuals rather than a single animal, but seeing a long string-like thing drifting through the deep sea, like a UFO, makes it feel like you've wandered into another world. As you can see, relatively large organisms continue to be discovered in recent years, and especially in the deep sea, there are organisms that are unbelievable by human common sense. While the possibility of giant creatures like mosasaurs, reaching over 10 meters in length, lurking in the deep sea may be low, many believe there's a high probability that organisms several meters in length exist. So if undiscovered giant creatures exist in the deep sea, what would they look like? Naturally, this question is difficult to answer, but we can speculate based on the characteristics of other deep sea organisms. First, since the deep sea has low water temperatures year-round, it's pointed out that organisms may tend to grow larger. On Earth, it's generally known that organisms living at higher latitudes tend to be larger, and in fact, we've confirmed creatures much larger than their terrestrial relatives, such as the giant squid, which can exceed 10 meters, and the giant isopod, with a body length of several tens of centimeters. Also, since food is scarce in the deep sea, if giant creatures exist, they're expected to have low metabolism and move slowly. In fact, research suggests that the colossal squid, which can weigh over 500 kilograms, has very low metabolism and may need only about 30 kg of food per day. This is partly because colossal squids don't move on their own, but wait for prey to touch their tentacles. But there's also the aspect that they follow Kleiber's law, where larger organisms generally have lower metabolism per unit weight. While the ecology of giant squids and colossal squids is not well understood, the Greenland shark serves as a good reference for large organisms living in similar environments. This shark lives mainly in the deep sea of high-latitude regions of the North Atlantic, and in water temperatures just above freezing. It travels between the surface and the deep sea, feeding on carrion and sleeping prey. While it's a large shark that can reach over 6 meters in length, its metabolism is very low. For example, some research suggests that eating just one 25-kilogram young sea lion could sustain it for over a year. Moreover, low metabolism directly correlates with slow movement and growth rates. Swimming speed is at most 216 km per hour. Gestation period is 8 to 18 years. It takes over 140 years to reach sexual maturity, and its lifespan exceeds 400 years, as if living on a completely different timescale from humans. If giant creatures exist in the deep sea, it wouldn't be unnatural to think they would be organisms that conserve energy like these creatures, have adaptations to capture prey, and grow slowly over hundreds of years. Oh? That's unfortunate. But if you ever have the opportunity to visit the deep sea, you should be careful. There might be giant creatures waiting quietly with tentacles spread out like the colossal squid. That's all for today's Viance. See you again.